Okay, so we're here today with Ellen Gordon, who is a member of the Contemporary Art Network, and I'm going to do a very informal interview with her about her process regarding her work. And so, hi Ellen.
Hi Anna, how are you doing this morning?
Fine. So Ellen, you have work dispersed through this space. This is like your showing space and slash kind of studio area.
Yes.
So we're going to kind of walk around from one spot to the other so you can discuss your work.
Great.
Okay, so we're here in front of these two very large paintings, and I'm going to back up just for a moment so I can like show them.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to turn the camera. So there's one. Okay, and there's the other. And you do a lot of figurative work exclusively. Let me come to you so that we can hear you when you're talking. So tell me, just do a little bit of an intro.
I've been doing figurative collage exclusively for about the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, I painted in watercolor, using it not in a traditional method to create contemporary looking watercolors that were more based on shape and overlapping shape and broken spaces. I have a inspiring relationship with a specific model that for the past several years I've been working from. I work privately from the model. All my work is based on the same model. We just get each other. So when I started with the figurative collages, I was using a process where I would transfer my original drawings and create the pieces based on the transfers and save the original drawing as a work of art. But over a few years or months of doing it, I realized that the original drawing had more emotion, and that I wasn't able to capture the emotionality when I did the transfer. So for the past several pieces I've been exploring other processes where I save my drawings, don't transfer them, and create pieces that have more emotion. And if you step into the studio now, I could show you some of those.
Okay, and it would be nice when we go and look at the other work that we can relate these pieces and how they're done process-wise versus the pieces that we're going to see.
Great.
Okay, so let's just walk over to your
Great.
studio, and I'm walking down the hall here. This is a really great space. I can't believe you guys got this space.
So the pieces on the wall in the gallery are based on transfers of drawings.
You know what? I want to. Can you do the blinds because I'm getting glare on this piece? Is there any way to?
I don't think I could reach it.
Oh, okay. It's all right. It's not that bad if I get close.
So when I realized there was a little bit of disconnect between the emotionality and the feeling in the original drawing on the finished pieces, for this piece, I didn't transfer the drawing, and I employed a collage and paint technique on the original drawing, and I don't have the drawing anymore. I sort of, quote unquote, sacrificed the drawing for the work.
Right.
And I prefer not to do that.
Okay.
I prefer to keep all my drawings as individual pieces of work that stands on their own.
Right.
So, I have each drawing.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
preserved.
drawing.
And I've created pieces based on all of the drawings.
So you think that you use the drawings more for a source of study for form and composition?
Form and shape, yes.
And, okay.
A lot of the drawings, the model exists on the paper without a composition, without the composition, just as a solo study. And then when I create the finished pieces, I make up the composition. I create some kind of environment, whether or not it's leaning against some pillows or sitting in a chair that I have designed to be something other than what she was actually sitting in.
Right. Now, what about the idea of when you first engage with the model and you're drawing the model in that very direct manner that you have, which is a given when you're working directly from life with a live model, and you capture a certain level of expression that you just kind of get very immediately through the drawing. How does that process change when you change over to, let's say, combination of media, scale, and compose in a way that it was not existent when you did the original drawing?
The scale, I have to say, is usually about the same. I don't really change the scale that much, but when I go to work on the pieces, I work with the drawing and then I work with the decorative paper, and there's some kind of connection that happens for me between my supply of papers and my palette of paint that forms the tonality of the colors that I know I'm going to use. And then from there, it sort of takes off and it happens. Sometimes it's like I'm watching a jigsaw puzzle in my mind being put together. I could imagine which piece is going where and how the shapes are going to drop in and either fit in or bridge a gap between a shape I've drawn and a shape I'm going to create.
Okay. Now, and also the design aspect of your pieces, when you actually start combining the different papers and the materials and the combination collage and drawing and painting, how do you come up with the design aspect of it? I mean, is it dictated to you by the use of the materials, or do you invent it?
No, I invented, and I guess I use just some what I consider, tools. I want to use the same color in a different value in more than one place, and I think about patterns of light and dark and how I'm going to move the eye through the piece and use that for the composition so that I could lead the viewer to what I want them to consider the center of the piece. In this drawing, I have to say I did it consciously, did not put in the face because I wanted the star to be the shoes. So it was sort of a design technique to bring you there and put the detail here versus there, which I do when I do a collage and painting piece as well.
This is really how you put this drawing together, because I saw the two drawings separate from one another, and how you combine them here in this piece is very, very nice. I really like the way the overall composition works. I think it's very strong. So it sounds to me, I mean, because I know you and the way that you work generally, you have, in my mind, a very systematic and logical way of working, and I think that's pertinent to your process and how you feel comfortable making art, which is different from obviously other people. So tell me how you work into your process when you're working in this way that seems logical to you, and you're making choices like you indicated here in this drawing, where you left the face blank so that you can highlight, the forms of the shoes, really, being the star of that within that portion of the composition. How do you talk about the possible inclusion of intuition and that sort of right brain activity?
When I do the drawings, I don't stop. I don't lift it up. I don't walk back to evaluate it. So it just happens. I always sit very close to the model, and I like to sit below her and be on the floor while she's up above.
Right.
The drawings are pure spontaneity. They just happen. The finished pieces, however, are less than spontaneous. They're very studied. It takes me longer to decide what's going to go where than actually applying the material to the paper. The work is all done on handmade papers, to arches. This is 300-pound paper. And each piece, I have to say, is thought about when I put it down. And each color that's used is thought about. I think about it in relation to the figure and the overall composition.
Do you feel that in your more successful pieces, you're able to achieve a balance of that kind of systematic thinking that you use to make your objective judgments in constructing these pieces, and then really making an expressive statement about the figure? I mean, do you feel like, because I feel like in your more successful pieces you do that. You retain, or you sort of reinvent, or you rediscover an emotional aspect to the figure going back to when you first did the drawing, that first engagement with the model in that pose, that you carry that with you somehow, and that you reinvent it in the new situation here, given that you've got a more complex piece that you're working on.
I mean, I want to reinvent it, and I want to push it forward and make it more than just another portrait of a woman.
Right.
In any situation, sitting, standing, I'm thinking about it, and I want to give them as much attitude as possible. I'm really pleased when they have a lot of attitude, and I know that sometimes they make people a little uncomfortable, and that makes me happy. Okay. I can't explain why. I'm a pleaser, but it's okay that sometimes my work doesn't always get the response of, oh, that's lovely. Yeah. It's okay. I like that. I don't know, how that happens.
Well, it's certainly another side of one's, not only one's personality potentially, but also what you kind of invest it when you're trying to develop an expressive content in using the figure.
I mean, I want to form an expressive content when it's important to me to be able to have my work convey emotion and be very expressive.
You've talked about this particular model and how much you like her, and I think with all good figurative artists who've worked with models, live models. Lucian Freud is an example. Alice Neal is another example. Going back and looking at some of the great artists who've used live models in their work, and I think that relationship between artist and model is something that historically has been extremely important in the development of the work and the artist's the sort of long-range expression of what they end up with in the finished piece. And so when you've talked about Bobby, your model, and the qualities that you like about her, I think that when the work is successful, when the drawing captures an essence of something about her, I think that you nail it, and it could be partly because you know her.
I know her, and she has, she takes no prisoners. There was a woman, someone came through my studio yesterday and was looking at my work, and she relayed a story to me that when she was growing up, she had an aunt that everyone in the family said, wow, this woman was such a character. And she said, she was some broad. And when I look at your work, that's the phrase that comes to my mind is, wow, she's some broad. And that really made me happy because she got it. That's it. She's some broad. And that's really what I guess I'm going for when I create these pieces, is that whoever looks at them, that's really what I'm getting at. I want that she's a broad. This is it.
So this is something that I agree. I really think, without knowing the model and just from what you've told me about her, and even without you really talking that much about her, there is a certain attitude that you capture in the pieces that are successful. I certainly find it more in your drawings consistently, where you can capture it more readily, more immediately, and that's why I like your drawings very much. When you do the more developed, complex work, where you're combining the different materials and developing these compositions based on pattern and shape, and your use of color, I think, is very important to the overall expression of the piece. It's very difficult, I think, to make a successful emotive statement when you're using the figure in this manner, which I think pretty complex, and I think you do it really, really well, and is one of the reasons why I think your work is very unique. Having said that, I want to ask you another question to sort of wrap up your view of your overall process. People look at art today, you know, obviously through the filter of so many different images that we're bombarded by, technology and everything that's out there. And for an artist to be, you know, working with the figure, particularly in this time, I find extremely interesting and challenging when I come upon a very interesting figurative artist. And I think you are a very interesting figurative artist. And I'd like to know how you think your work in dealing with the figure makes it contemporary. I mean, we are forming a contemporary art network in which you are a part of, and I am curious to know how you define contemporary in view of your work.
Well, I think that my pieces are a non-traditional presentation of the figure. A lot of figures are, let's say, commissioned portraits, and mine are not. You know, I'm using the figure now to express, I guess, my own attitude towards dames and broads. But I think what makes it contemporary is the way it's put together, you know, the handling. I mean, there's so much mixed media around, and my mixed media is not abstract, and a lot of mixed media today is.
So you feel that one of the distinguishing features about your work is that you're using mixed media as a support to using the figure.
Right, the collage as a support for the figure. This specific piece doesn't have that many collage elements in it, but a lot of the others,
yes.
Most of the figure, maybe it's the hair or the clothing, even the appendages, they are collage elements, and I vary it and I bounce it back and forth from one to the next, because I don't want each one to look like the other one, just for it to be more of the same. And
so, you know what I want to do is maybe we could take a walk out to the front of the hall here, or the gallery where you have those other two portraits hanging, and hopefully the lighting is okay, that I want to take just a quick overview as we close.
I could turn the
video. That would be great. And I'm going to follow you, and the camera's still on.
The camera's still on.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to just walk down with you.
Okay. Oh, the lights are on.
Great. So this is another example of a mixed media piece.
A mixed media figurative collage, where I used earlier process where the drawing was transferred. This one is very emotional. I think because of the unusual painting of the face, I was able to achieve that.
Yeah, I'm going to get close to this. Yeah. Yeah, it's really beautiful how it's handled, and it does almost have kind of a quasi-Asian quality to it.
Yes.
Really beautiful use of the materials. You know, the combination of the paint and the paper, the different papers.
Painted and what.
Yeah, I'm doing this. This is like so great. Getting close to some of these areas, they're so beautiful.
And some of the sections, I was inspired by the paper to paint next to it, to paint a version of the paper.
Right. I see that right
here. You know, and here it was the light on the dark, and there I reversed it on the dark on the light. I mean, those are just things I think about all the time when I know I have to move the eye around, that I want to have variety in moving it as well.
Great. Let's go around the side here, because there's another piece.
And here, I was really pleased with, I used this specific paper for one leg, and on the other leg, I painted it to look like that paper, which was a design choice that I had.
It also helps that portion of the form come forward. That leg that's bent coming forward is really good.
Yeah, it was hard to solve. A lot of these are like puzzles. You know, I start with the drawing, and then how do I solve it?
Right.
You know, this one is a good example where it's painted and it's papered, and it's painted and it's papered, you know, where there's more variety of the use of the medium.
And this one also has a rather distinct emotional quality to it that's almost, to me, contradictory to the use of color in this piece. You know, the color is very You know, it's vibrant and it's certainly not somber. We're in a gallery, so it's getting a little bit busy here. So the tone, the emotional tone of the piece is quite different from just the.
I'm hoping every one of the pieces I do has a different emotional tone, and I'm aware that I want the emotional tone to be complex. Not interested in a smile.
Yeah, but it's also and the other level of complexity is that you use color differently than what the emotional tone of the features. You know,
Yes.
There's a feeling around that face that's quite reflective and kind of somber, and perhaps even for me a little bit forlorn. And the use of the color is quite different from that. And I like the fact that it's different, that it's not the same, that the color is saying something different in terms of expressing a state of mind versus what I'm getting when I look at the face of this piece. So, all right, so it sounds like it's getting busy here, and you as the head honcho of this place I guess you have to
Get ready to open. The gallery's going to open to the public.
Right. So we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.